What if Harry Potter and Hermione Granger traveled back in time together? Not just a few hours with a time turner, but years into the past, armed with knowledge of everything that's to come. What if they had the chance to rewrite the darkest chapters of wizarding history? But here's the twist that changes everything. Ron Weasley isn't with them. The Golden Trio is broken, and without that third vital piece, nothing would unfold the way we know it. This is the story of how two best friends could save everyone they love, or destroy the future trying. Let's set the stage. It's the aftermath of the Battle of Hogwarts. The war is won, but the cost was devastating. Fred Weasley is gone. Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks leave behind an orphaned son. Dozens of students and Order members gave their lives. Harry stands in the ruins of Hogwarts, the Elder Wand heavy in his hand, and he can't stop thinking about one thing. What if there was a way to undo it all? What if he could go back and stop Voldemort before the first Wizarding War even began? Hermione is thinking the same thing. She's always been the one with answers, but even her brilliant mind couldn't prevent the tragedies they witnessed. Together they discover something. Hidden deep within the Department of Mysteries, beyond the time chamber that was destroyed, there's an experimental device. An ancient magical artifact that the Unspeakables had been studying for decades. Unlike a time turner, which can only go back hours, this device can send someone back years, even decades. But it's unstable, dangerous, and has never been successfully tested. The Ministry forbids its use. Kingsley Shacklebolt, now Minister of Magic, explicitly orders it sealed away. But Harry and Hermione can't let it go. In secret meetings, they plan. They research. They convince themselves that they have to try. Not for themselves, but for everyone who died. For Sirius. For Dumbledore. For all the innocents caught in Voldemort's reign of terror. Ron finds out about their plan and he's furious. He argues with them, begs them not to do it. He tells them it's too dangerous, that they don't know what they're messing with, that some things can't be changed. But Harry and Hermione have made up their minds. One night, they break into the Department of Mysteries. The artifact is a crystalline sphere that pulses with ancient magic, covered in runes neither of them fully understand. They activate it together, hands clasped, their intentions focused on a single point in time. September 1st, 1971. The year James Potter, Lily Evans, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, Peter Pettigrew, and Severus Snape all started at Hogwarts. The year before everything went wrong. There's a blinding flash, a sensation of being pulled through layers of reality, and then darkness. They wake up in the Forbidden Forest. It's morning, and through the trees they can see Hogwarts Castle, but it looks different. Newer somehow, less scarred by battle. Hermione pulls out a newspaper from her enchanted bag. The Daily Prophet's date confirms it. September 2nd, 1971. They've actually done it. They've traveled back 26 years. They're standing in a world where Voldemort is still Tom Riddle, already gathering followers, but not yet the terror he'll become. Where Harry's parents are 11-year-old children about to start their magical education. Where everyone they know is either not born yet or completely different. The first problem hits them immediately. They're still themselves. Harry is recognizable as Harry Potter, even though he won't be born for 9 more years. Hermione looks exactly like herself. They need disguises, new identities, a way to blend into this time without causing paradoxes. Hermione, always prepared, has brought polyjuice potion ingredients, but they need to become people who actually exist in this timeline, people whose absence won't be noticed. They decide on a risky strategy. They'll pose as distant relatives of wizarding families, homeschooled until now, finally attending Hogwarts as older students. Using magic to forge documents and confundus charms on the right ministry workers, they create new identities. Harry becomes Harrison Evans, claiming to be a distant cousin of Lily Evans' family. The irony isn't lost on him. He'll be posing as his mother's relative. Hermione becomes Hermione Dagworth Granger, supposedly from the Dagworth Granger line of potioneers. They age themselves up slightly with glamour charms to appear as 6th-year students, old enough to have knowledge and freedom, young enough not to draw too much attention. Their arrival at Hogwarts is surreal. Professor Dumbledore is headmaster, but he's younger, his auburn hair not yet fully silver, his eyes not yet carrying the weight of the wars to come. Professor McGonagall teaches Transfiguration, looking almost exactly as they remember her, which makes sense as she barely seems to age. But seeing Professor Slughorn actively teaching potions, seeing Hagrid as a much younger groundskeeper, seeing the castle filled with students whose children and grandchildren they know, it's overwhelming. The Sorting Hat places Harrison Evans in Gryffindor. No surprise there. Hermione Dagworth Granger also goes to Gryffindor, which is a relief. They need to stay close to coordinate their actions. As they sit at the Gryffindor table, they see them. The Marauders. James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, all 11 years old, looking excited and nervous as first years do. And there, a few seats down, is Lily Evans, her red hair unmistakable, her green eyes, Harry's eyes, bright with wonder at this magical world. Harry can barely breathe. He's looking at his mother as a child, the mother he never knew who died to save him, who he's only seen in photographs and brief magical echoes. She's alive, real, laughing at something another first-year girl said. Hermione grips his hand under the table, steadying him. They have to be careful. They can't reveal who they really are. They can't disrupt things too much too quickly, or they might erase themselves from existence. But that's the paradox they're already caught in. How can they change the past without changing themselves? If they prevent Voldemort's rise, James and Lily might never die. Harry might grow up with his parents. But would he be the same person? Would he and Hermione ever become friends? Would Ron exist in their lives at all? These are questions they discussed before coming back, and they still don't have good answers. They've decided on a philosophy. Save as many lives as possible while keeping the essential timeline intact. It's a razor's edge to walk. Their first target is Peter Pettigrew. In their original timeline, Wormtail was the traitor who sold out the Potters to Voldemort, who framed Sirius Black, who helped resurrect the Dark Lord. Everything might have been different if Peter had never turned. But as Harry watches the small, nervous first-year Peter trailing after James and Sirius like a shadow, he struggles with a horrifying thought. This is a child, an 11-year-old boy who hasn't done anything wrong yet. How do you condemn someone for crimes they haven't committed? How do you punish future sins? Hermione argues for a different approach. Instead of targeting Peter, they should prevent him from ever becoming a traitor. If they can guide his development, befriend him, strengthen his loyalty, maybe he'll never betray anyone. It's idealistic, but it's more palatable than the alternative. So they watch. They observe the young Marauders forming their friendship. James's arrogance and natural talent, Sirius's rebellious charisma, Remus's quiet intelligence and the secret he's already hiding, Peter's eagerness to belong, and they watch Severus Snape, the boy who would become the half-blood prince, the man who would kill Dumbledore, the most controversial figure in the war against Voldemort. He sits alone at the Slytherin table, dark-haired and sallow, his robes already worn and shabby. Harry knows the full truth now. Snape loved Lily Potter his entire life. He turned spy for Dumbledore because of that love. He protected Harry for years, despite hating him, because of Lily. He was one of the bravest men Harry ever knew. But he was also cruel, bitter, and his obsessive love for Lily was deeply unhealthy. Hermione wants to intervene here too. If they can prevent the incident that ends Snape and Lily's friendship, if they can keep Snape from joining the Death Eaters, they could save countless lives. Snape was the one who overheard the prophecy and told Voldemort. That single act set everything in motion. If they can change Snape's path, they might stop the prophecy from ever mattering. But how do you fix someone's entire life trajectory? How do you heal wounds that haven't been inflicted yet? Classes begin, and Harry and Hermione find themselves in a strange position. They're taking sixth-year classes, but they already know most of this material. They learned it in their original timeline, often under much more stressful circumstances. Hermione has to deliberately hold back from answering every question in class. Harry finds himself naturally excelling at defense against the dark arts, taught by a professor named Yaxley, who in their timeline would become a Death Eater. The irony is bitter. They're also learning things they never knew. The curriculum is different in the 1970s. Some spells they learned aren't taught yet. Other magic they never encountered is standard. Professor Slughorn immediately tries to recruit them for his slug club. Intrigued by Hermione's supposed connection to the famous Hector Dagworth Granger, and impressed by Harrison Evans' instinctive magical power. They accept, because Slughorn's parties are where connections are made, where they might influence the future. At their first Slug Club meeting, they meet Tom Riddle's contemporaries, students who would go on to become Death Eaters or their victims. They meet older students who are already whispering about Lord Voldemort, a mysterious figure gathering power in the shadows. The Dark Lord is already active, already recruiting, but he hasn't yet revealed the full extent of his power. This is the window. This is when they might stop him, but they quickly realize they have a major problem. They don't actually know where Voldemort is. In their timeline, by 1971, Tom Riddle had already disappeared from public view, traveling the world, learning dark magic, gathering followers in secret. He wouldn't openly declare war until later in the decade. They know he's out there, but they don't know where or how to find him. And even if they did, what would they do? Two students, however magically talented, against the most powerful dark wizard in history. They're not ready for that confrontation, so they shift strategies. If they can't stop Voldemort directly yet, they can undermine his future support. They can identify the students who will become Death Eaters and try to change their paths. They can strengthen the people who will fight against him. They can prepare the wizarding world for the war that's coming. It's a long game, but it might be the only one they can play. Hermione starts spending time in the library, of course, researching everything she can about this era. She discovers records of Horcruxes, the dark magical objects that made Voldemort immortal. In their original timeline, Dumbledore spent years hunting them down. But now, with Hermione's knowledge, they know exactly what the Horcruxes are. The diary, the ring, the locket, the cup, the diadem, Nagini, and Harry himself. But here's the problem. Most of them don't exist yet. Voldemort creates his Horcruxes over many years. The diary might be the first, but when? Where? How do they destroy objects that haven't been made yet? Harry is dealing with his own emotional turmoil. He's watching his parents grow up. James Potter is everything Harry heard about, arrogant and talented, showing off in the corridors, already infatuated with Lily Evans even though she can't stand him. Sirius Black is the brother Harry never had, but as a child, wild and untempered. Remus Lupin is kind and studious, but Harry can see the exhaustion around the full moon, the secret eating at him. And Peter, always on the edges, always trying to keep up. Harry wants so badly to talk to them, to tell James, "You're my father, I came back to save you," to tell Sirius, "You're my godfather, you're innocent, you'll never have to go to Azkaban," to tell Remus, "You'll teach me the Patronus charm, you'll be one of the best teachers I ever have." But he can't. Any of those revelations could shatter the timeline. So he suffers in silence, watching his family from a distance, close enough to touch but forever separated by the walls of time and secrecy. One night, Harry and Hermione are called to Dumbledore's office. Their hearts pound as they climb the spiral staircase. Has he figured them out? Dumbledore is the most powerful and perceptive wizard alive. If anyone would detect time travelers, it would be him. They enter to find him sitting behind his desk, Fawkes on his perch. The office already filled with the silver instruments and portraits they remember. Though some are different, Dumbledore studies them with those piercing blue eyes. He doesn't speak for a long moment. Then he says something that chills them to the bone. He says he's been expecting them. Not them specifically, but someone. He explains that he's been researching time magic, that he knows it's theoretically possible to travel back years, not just hours. He says he's detected temporal distortions around them, subtle but unmistakable to someone who knows what to look for. He asks them directly, "When are you from?" Harry and Hermione exchange glances. They could lie, but this is Dumbledore. He probably already knows. So Hermione tells him the truth. They're from the future, from the year 1998. They came back to prevent a war, to save lives, to stop Tom Riddle before he becomes Lord Voldemort. They don't tell him everything. They don't mention the Horcruxes yet, or the prophecy, or Harry's true identity, but they tell him enough. Dumbledore is silent for a long time. Then he does something unexpected. He thanks them. He says that he's been trying to stop Tom for years, that he knows what the young man he once taught has become, but he's been fighting alone, unsure of how to proceed. He's been watching Voldemort gather power, recruiting followers, and he's felt helpless to stop it without proof, without support. Two allies from the future with knowledge of what's to come could change everything. But then Dumbledore warns them. Time magic is the most dangerous magic that exists. Every change they make creates ripples. Some changes might be beneficial, but others could lead to catastrophic consequences they can't foresee. He tells them the story of a witch who went back to kill her infant self to prevent a tragedy she caused, and created a temporal paradox that destroyed 20 people from existence. He asks them if they're prepared for the responsibility of rewriting history. Harry and Hermione insist they are. They've thought about this, planned for it. They're not here to change everything, just to prevent the worst atrocities. Dumbledore looks at them with something like sadness and says, "That's what everyone who meddles with time believes." He tells them he won't stop them, but he won't help them either, not directly. If they change the future, they have to own those changes. He will, however, provide them one thing: information. He's been tracking Voldemort's movements, and he knows where the Dark Lord is hiding. This is the moment they've been waiting for. Voldemort's location. But Dumbledore's next words complicate everything. He says that Tom Riddle is currently in Albania, searching for ancient magic, and he won't return to Britain for several years. Even if they went after him now, confronting him directly would be incredibly dangerous, and it might accelerate his plans rather than stop them. Dumbledore suggests a different approach: dismantle his support network. Without followers, without resources, Voldemort is just one wizard, powerful but alone, so they begin a campaign. Hermione creates a study group, ostensibly to help students with difficult subjects, but really to identify and influence potential Death Eaters. She befriends Slytherin students, something she never would have done in their original timeline because of house prejudices. She talks to them about their views, challenges their beliefs gently, plants seeds of doubt about blood purity ideology. It's slow, delicate work, and she can't tell if it's making a difference. Harry takes a different approach. He starts training. He knows that eventually he'll have to face Voldemort again, and this time he won't have the accidental Horcrux connection that linked them before. He won't have his mother's blood protection or the Elder Wand's allegiance. He'll just be a wizard, talented but mortal, against the most powerful dark wizard in history. So he practices dueling. He studies battle magic. He learns from this timeline's defense against the dark arts professors, absorbing everything he can. Meanwhile, the young Marauders are forming their legendary friendship. By their second year, they've discovered Remus's secret. He's a werewolf, transformed every full moon, suffering alone. James, Sirius, and Peter are working on becoming Animagi to keep him company during transformations. Harry knows this is a pivotal moment in their lives. In the original timeline, this friendship defined them. But it also led to tragedy. Peter's animagus form allowed him to hide as a rat for 12 years. James and Sirius's arrogance led to the prank that almost killed Snape. Harry decides to intervene subtly. As Harrison Evans, an older student, he befriends the Marauders. It's not hard. James is drawn to anyone talented at Quidditch, and Harry's natural flying ability gets him on the team quickly. Sirius respects power and wit, both of which Harry has. Remus appreciates anyone who doesn't judge him for his condition. Peter, eager for acceptance, latches onto anyone the others respect. Harry becomes something of a mentor to them, and through that relationship, he tries to guide them away from their worst impulses. He encourages James to think about how his actions affect others, particularly Lily. He teaches Sirius that being brave doesn't mean being reckless. He reassures Remus that his condition doesn't define him, and he tries to build up Peter, to give him confidence and purpose beyond following the others. It's strange, being a mentor to his own father, but Harry finds it meaningful. He's getting to know James not as a saint or an abstract concept, but as a real, flawed, growing person. Hermione, meanwhile, has befriended Lily Evans. As one of the only other Muggleborns in Gryffindor, they bond naturally. Hermione is careful not to reveal too much, but she becomes Lily's confidant, her study partner, her friend. Through this friendship, she learns things about her friend's mother that Harry never knew. Lily's brilliance with charms, her fierce sense of justice, her struggles with the prejudice she faces from some purebloods. Hermione also sees Lily's complicated relationship with Severus Snape. They're still friends in these early years, Lily and Severus, but the cracks are forming. Snape is being drawn into Slytherin's darker circles. He's learning hexes and curses, experimenting with dark magic. Lily disapproves but doesn't want to abandon her childhood friend. Hermione sees an opportunity. She starts talking to Snape carefully. She finds common ground in potion making, praising his obvious talent, his brilliant modifications to standard recipes. She plants the idea that he doesn't have to choose between his ambitions and his ethics, but Snape is suspicious. He asks Hermione why she cares about him, a Slytherin, when most Gryffindors avoid his house. She tells him that the houses are just sorting categories, not destiny. That some of the bravest people she's known came from unexpected places, and some of the darkest came from families of heroes. She can see him processing this, wanting to believe it, but fighting against years of thinking that power and darkness are synonymous. The years pass. Harry and Hermione watch history unfold around them with increasing anxiety. By their third year at this Hogwarts, which corresponds to the Marauders' first year, Voldemort's name is being whispered more openly. The Death Eaters are recruiting. Attacks on Muggleborns are increasing. The First Wizarding War is beginning, earlier than they expected. Their presence has already changed the timeline in ways they didn't anticipate. Some changes seem positive. Peter Pettigrew is more confident, less likely to seek powerful friends to feel important. Severus Snape hasn't fully committed to the Death Eaters yet, still torn between his dark interests and Lily's disapproval. James Potter is slightly less arrogant, having been influenced by Harrison Evans's example. But other changes worry them. An attack that happened in October in the original timeline happened in August instead. A family that survived the war was killed. Cause and effect are tangling in unpredictable ways. Harry and Hermione realize they need more direct action. Dumbledore has given them information about Horcruxes, confirming that Tom Riddle created at least 2 before going to Albania. The ring and the diary. The ring is hidden in the ruins of the Gaunt family shack, protected by powerful curses. The diary, Dumbledore believes, has been given to one of Voldemort's followers for safekeeping, though he doesn't know who. These objects must be destroyed if Voldemort is ever to be truly defeated. They plan an expedition to the Gaunt shack during the Christmas holiday. Hermione researches every protection spell and curse she can think of. Harry practices the Sword of Gryffindor summoning charm, knowing it's one of the few things that can destroy a Horcrux. But there's a problem. In this timeline, Harry hasn't proven his worth to Gryffindor. The sword won't come to him just because he wants it. They need another method. Hermione discovers a basilisk fang could also destroy a Horcrux, and she knows where there's a basilisk. The Chamber of Secrets beneath Hogwarts contains the serpent Slytherin left there 1,000 years ago. In their original timeline, Harry killed it in his 2nd year. But in this timeline, the chamber hasn't been opened. No one knows it exists except Voldemort himself, who opened it as a student. They debate whether opening the chamber is worth the risk. The basilisk is incredibly dangerous. But they need that fang. Harry speaks parcel tongue, the language of snakes, a gift he received from Voldemort when he became an accidental Horcrux. But in this timeline, he was never a Horcrux. Does he still have that ability? They go to the girls' bathroom where Moaning Myrtle haunts, though Myrtle isn't there yet, because she hasn't died yet. That's another timeline change. In the original history, she was killed by the basilisk when Tom Riddle opened the chamber in the 40s. But the bathroom is still marked with parcel tongue symbols. Harry tries to speak to the snake carvings, and to his relief, the ability is still there. Maybe it's residual magic from his connection to Voldemort in the original timeline, or maybe it's something else. The sink opens, revealing the pipe down into the chamber. They descend together, wands lit, hearts pounding. The chamber is exactly as Harry remembers, but also different. Emptier. No signs of the battle he fought here with the diary. The statue of Slytherin looms at the end of the chamber, and behind it, the basilisk's lair. Harry speaks parcel tongue, commanding the basilisk to emerge, but not attack. The massive serpent slithers out, its eyes closed because Harry ordered it so. Hermione is terrified but stands her ground. Harry explains what they need in parcel tongue, and miraculously, the basilisk complies, allowing Harry to extract a single fang. Then they leave quickly, before anything goes wrong. They have their Horcrux-destroying weapon. Over Christmas break, they travel to Little Hangleton. The Gaunt Shack is exactly where it should be, a ruin hidden by magic. Hermione detects curses immediately, powerful dark magic protecting something inside. They proceed carefully, dismantling wards one by one. It takes hours, and they're both exhausted when they finally find it. The ring, hidden under the floorboards, a simple gold band with a black stone. The Resurrection Stone, though they don't know that yet. Harry raises the basilisk fang, but before he can strike, the ring whispers to him. It shows him visions, his parents, alive. Sirius, free. Everyone he loves gathered around him. It's tempting, so tempting. Hermione shouts his name, breaking the spell. Harry brings the fang down hard. The ring shatters with a scream, black smoke pouring out. A piece of Voldemort's soul, destroyed. One down, but how many remain? They return to Hogwarts, exhausted but triumphant. One Horcrux destroyed. But they still need to find the diary, and they need to locate Voldemort's other creations. Hufflepuff's cup, Ravenclaw's diadem, and in the future, Nagini the snake. And there's still Harry from the original timeline, though he doesn't exist here. In this timeline, James and Lily haven't even met romantically yet. Harry won't be born for years. That Horcrux won't exist. The timeline is diverging more and more. As the school year continues, tensions rise in the wizarding world. Voldemort has returned from Albania, and he's no longer hiding. He's declared himself openly, calling himself Lord Voldemort, gathering his Death Eaters. The Ministry is in denial, refusing to believe that Tom Riddle, the charming student who graduated 2 decades ago, could be this Dark Lord. But people are disappearing. Muggleborns are being attacked. The war is here. Dumbledore forms the Order of the Phoenix, earlier than in the original timeline. Harry and Hermione are invited to join, despite being students, because Dumbledore knows their value. They're experienced fighters, veterans of a war that hasn't happened yet. Their first Order meeting is surreal. They see younger versions of people they knew as adults or ghosts, moody with both eyes. Molly and Arthur Weasley, newly married. Emmeline Vance, Dorcas Meadows, Edgar Bones. Names Harry knows from plaques and memorials, alive and fighting. The Order needs intelligence on Voldemort's plans. Harry and Hermione volunteer for a mission. They'll infiltrate a Death Eater gathering, disguised, and gather information. It's dangerous, possibly suicidal, but they've faced worse. They've fought in the Battle of Hogwarts. They've hunted Horcruxes. They can handle this. Hermione brews Polyjuice Potion. They choose their disguises carefully. 2 minor Death Eaters who won't be missed for a few hours. The Death Eater meeting is in Malfoy Manor, which in this timeline is owned by Abraxas Malfoy, Lucius's father. They enter with the others, hooded and masked, and stand in the grand hall as Voldemort himself addresses them. Harry's scar, which shouldn't exist in this timeline but does because of residual magic from his original self, burns painfully. Voldemort looks younger than Harry remembers, but no less terrifying. Red eyes, snake-like features, radiating dark power. Voldemort speaks of his plans. He will purge the wizarding world of mudbloods and blood traitors. He will overthrow the Ministry. He will rule immortal and unstoppable. He mentions his Horcruxes, though not directly, alluding to protections he's put in place to ensure his survival. Harry and Hermione listen, memorizing every word. Then disaster strikes. Someone recognizes them, or rather, recognizes that they're not who they appear to be. Maybe their polyjuice is wearing off too soon, or maybe they said something wrong. A Death Eater points and shouts. They run. Curses fly. Harry and Hermione fight back, stunning Death Eaters blasting through walls. They apparate away just as Voldemort himself raises his wand. They land back at Order headquarters, wounded but alive, with crucial intelligence. They've learned that Voldemort has created more Horcruxes than they thought. Not just the ones from the original timeline, but possibly others. The timeline changes are affecting even Voldemort's actions. Dumbledore makes a decision. They need to accelerate their plans. He, Harry, and Hermione will hunt the Horcruxes together. It's risky pulling Dumbledore away from leading the Order, but it's necessary. They start with the diary. Through careful investigation and a bit of luck, they discover that Voldemort gave it to Abraxas Malfoy for safekeeping. Breaking into Malfoy Manor is incredibly dangerous, but they do it anyway. Dumbledore provides the power, Harry provides knowledge of the manor's layout from his original timeline, and Hermione provides the planning. They retrieve the diary from a hidden vault. Harry stabs it with the basilisk fang. Another Horcrux destroyed, 2 down, but Abraxas Malfoy sees them as they escape. Now Voldemort knows someone is hunting his Horcruxes. He'll protect the others more carefully. The hunt has become exponentially more difficult. Meanwhile, at Hogwarts, the Marauders are in their 4th year. They've successfully become animagi, though they haven't told any adults yet. James is a stag, Sirius is a dog, Peter is a rat. Just like the original timeline, Harry watches them celebrate, and his heart aches. Lily and James still aren't together. James is still immature, still showing off, and Lily still finds him arrogant. But there's something different. Thanks to Hermione's influence, Lily is more open-minded. Thanks to Harry's mentoring, James is more considerate. The gap between them is smaller than it was in the original timeline. Harry wonders if they'll still fall in love, still have him. Part of him hopes they will. Part of him knows that if they don't, if the timeline changes too much, he might cease to exist entirely. Severus Snape is at a crossroads. He's in his 4th year now, and the Death Eaters are actively recruiting at Hogwarts. Several Slytherin students have taken the Dark Mark. Snape is being pressured to join. His talent in the dark arts hasn't gone unnoticed. Voldemort himself has expressed interest in the brilliant young wizard. Hermione intensifies her friendship with him, trying to keep him on the right path. She argues that true power comes from choice, not from following the strongest leader. She appeals to his love for Lily, reminding him that Lily would never accept him if he became a Death Eater. It works, partially. Snape doesn't take the dark mark, not yet, but he's angry, resentful that he's being forced to choose between his ambitions and his one real friendship. He blames James Potter for Lily's growing distance, not entirely unfairly. James's bullying of Snape has continued, though Harry has tried to curb it. The incident at the Whomping Willow, where Sirius nearly tricks Snape into meeting a werewolf, happens despite Harry's attempts to prevent it. Snape sees Remus transformed, and only James's intervention saves him. This moment could break Snape entirely, push him to the Death Eaters out of rage and humiliation. But Harry intervenes. As Harrison Evans, he talks to Snape privately. He admits that what Sirius did was wrong, that James's bullying is wrong, but he also challenges Snape. He asks if Snape wants to let his worst enemies define his choices. If he takes the dark mark, he's giving them power over his life. He's becoming exactly what they accuse him of being. It's a harsh conversation, but it plants a seed. The war intensifies. Order members are dying. Fabian and Gideon Privet, Molly Weasley's brothers, are killed by 5 Death Eaters. It happens exactly as it did in the original timeline, despite Harry and Hermione's attempts to prevent it. They're learning a painful lesson. Some events seem fixed, resistant to change. Other events butterfly into unexpected consequences. They can't predict what will stay the same and what will shift. Hermione has a breakdown one night. She's exhausted from the constant pressure, from the war, from living a lie. She admits to Harry that she doesn't know if they're making things better or worse. What if their interference causes more deaths than it prevents? What if they're creating a darker timeline than the original? Harry doesn't have good answers. He's struggling too, watching people die, watching his parents grow up, knowing that at any moment, he might fade from existence if the timeline changes too drastically. They seek advice from Dumbledore, who tells them something profound. He says that every timeline is equally real, every version of events equally valid. They haven't erased their original timeline by coming back. They've created a branching path, a new possibility. In some other reality, the version of events they lived through still happened. In this reality, they're creating something different. Whether it's better or worse, only time will tell. But they've committed to this path, and they must see it through. Reinvigorated, they continue their mission. Hufflepuff's cup is in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts vault, just as it was in the original timeline. Bellatrix is a recent Death Eater recruit, fanatically loyal to Voldemort. Breaking into Gringotts is considered impossible, but they've done it before. In their original timeline, they rode a dragon out of the bank. They can do it again. The planning takes months. They need Polyjuice Potion, insider information, and incredible luck. Hermione spends weeks researching Gringotts' security systems. She learns that the goblins have upgraded their defenses since Voldemort's rise to power. There are now additional curses on the high-security vaults, magical detectors that can sense human presence even under invisibility cloaks, and enhanced anti-theft measures. The Thief's Downfall, a waterfall that washes away all enchantments and magical disguises, is just one of many obstacles they'll face. But Hermione is brilliant, and she's faced impossible odds before. They need someone on the inside. Someone who works at Gringotts and can provide them with crucial information about vault locations and guard rotations. Harry suggests they approach Bill Weasley, who in this timeline is just beginning his career as a cursebreaker for Gringotts. Bill is young, idealistic, and already sympathetic to the Order's cause. When they approach him with their request, explaining that they need to retrieve a dark magical object from a Death Eater's vault, Bill is hesitant, but ultimately agrees to help. Bill provides them with detailed maps of Gringotts' lower levels, information about the security measures and the timing of goblin patrols. He explains that Bellatrix's vault is one of the oldest and most secure, protected not just by magical defenses but by the ancient magic of the goblins themselves. Any unauthorized entry will trigger immediate alarms and potentially deadly consequences. They'll have one chance, maybe 2 minutes at most, before the entire bank comes down on them. The plan they devise is elaborate and risky. Hermione will use Polyjuice Potion to transform into Bellatrix Lestrange. They'll need a hair sample, which means somehow getting close enough to Bellatrix to acquire one without her noticing. This alone takes weeks of surveillance and careful planning. They finally manage to obtain a hair during a Death Eater gathering that Harry and Hermione observe from a distance, using extendable ears and other spying devices borrowed from the Weasley twins' shop. which doesn't exist yet in this timeline, but whose prototypes the twins are already developing at Hogwarts. Harry will pose as a random wizard accompanying Bellatrix, using a combination of polyjuice potion and careful acting to blend in. They'll bring along an Imperious goblin to guide them through the bank's defenses. Hermione hates the idea of using the Imperious curse. It's an unforgivable curse, illegal and morally reprehensible, but they've exhausted all other options. Without a goblin guide, they'll never make it past the security measures. The ends must justify the means, even if it costs them a piece of their souls. The day of the heist arrives. Hermione drinks the polyjuice potion and transforms into Bellatrix Lestrange. The transformation is physically uncomfortable, but also psychologically disturbing. She looks in the mirror and sees the face of one of the most sadistic Death Eaters, the woman who tortured her in the original timeline at Malfoy Manor, carving the word mudblood into her arm. The memory makes her shudder, but she pushes it down. She has to stay focused. They enter Gringotts in the early morning, when the bank is just opening and relatively quiet. Hermione, as Bellatrix, strides through the marble hall with the arrogant confidence the real Bellatrix would display. Harry, disguised as a nondescript wizard, follows 2 steps behind. They approach the main desk and demand access to the Lestrange vault. The goblin on duty eyes them suspiciously. Something isn't quite right. Maybe Hermione's voice doesn't match perfectly, or maybe there's something off about her demeanor. The goblin asks for identification. Hermione produces a forged vault key that Bill helped them create. The goblin examines it closely, running his fingers over the intricate engravings. For a heart-stopping moment, it seems like he's going to reject it. Then he nods curtly and summons another goblin to escort them to the vaults. Harry and Hermione exchange a quick glance. They're in. But the hardest part is still ahead. They descend into the depths of Gringotts on one of the small carts that race through the underground tunnels. The cart plunges through darkness, taking sharp turns at breakneck speeds. They pass through the thief's downfall, and Hermione feels the polyjuice potion wash away. She panics, but Harry quickly casts a glamour charm to maintain her Bellatrix appearance. It's not as good as polyjuice, but it might fool the goblins for a few more minutes. They reach the high-security vaults level, where the oldest and most dangerous magical objects are kept. The temperature drops noticeably. The air feels thick with protective enchantments. The goblin leading them seems nervous, which is unusual for goblins. He can sense that something is wrong. Harry makes a split-second decision and casts the Imperious curse. The goblin's eyes glaze over, and he becomes compliant. Hermione feels sick to her stomach. They've crossed a line they swore they'd never cross, but they've come too far to turn back now. The Lestrange vault is at the very end of a long corridor. As they approach, they can see the massive door covered in protective symbols. The goblin, under Harry's control, places his hand on the door and speaks the opening command in gobbledygook. The door swings open with a grinding sound that echoes through the corridors. Inside, the vault is filled with treasure. Gold, jewels, magical artifacts, all piled high. But they're not here for treasure. They're here for one specific item. Hermione's eyes scan the vault frantically. There, on a high shelf, she spots it. Hufflepuff's cup, gleaming gold with 2 finely wrought handles, and a badger engraved on the side. But as soon as she spots it, she also notices the protective enchantments. The cup is surrounded by a shimmering barrier. Touching anything in this vault will trigger the Geminio and Flagrante curses. Any object they touch will multiply endlessly and burn with intense heat. They need to disable the curses before they can safely retrieve the cup. Hermione pulls out her wand and begins casting counter curses, trying to unravel the protective enchantments. It's delicate work, like defusing a bomb while wearing mittens. One wrong move and the whole vault will erupt in chaos. Harry keeps watch, his wand ready, expecting goblin guards to arrive at any moment. The minutes tick by with agonizing slowness. Finally, Hermione manages to create a small gap in the enchantments, just large enough to reach through. She extends her hand carefully, fingers trembling, and grasps the cup. The moment her skin makes contact with the gold, she feels the dark magic radiating from it. This is definitely a Horcrux. The malevolent energy is unmistakable. She pulls the cup toward her, moving as slowly and carefully as she can. But then disaster strikes. Her elbow brushes against a goblet on a lower shelf. Instantly, the Geminio curse activates. The goblet multiplies, and then the copies multiply, and within seconds, the vault is filling with burning hot treasures. The Flagrante curse makes each object scorching to the touch. Harry and Hermione are surrounded by an avalanche of red-hot gold and jewels. They're being buried alive in cursed treasure. Hermione screams a cooling charm, but it's not enough. The heat is overwhelming. Their skin is burning. Harry casts Aguamenti, summoning water to cool the treasures around them, creating a temporary path. They scramble toward the vault entrance, clutching the cup, as the treasures continue to multiply behind them. The goblin under Imperius is crushed under the weight of multiplying gold. They can't save him. They can barely save themselves. They burst out of the vault and run down the corridor. Alarms are blaring throughout Gringotts. Goblin guards are streaming toward them from all directions. Harry and Hermione cast stunning spells and shield charms as they run, fighting their way through. They reach the main tunnel system, but there's no cart to escape in. They're trapped underground with an entire bank of angry goblins hunting them. Then Harry remembers something from the original timeline. The dragon, deep beneath Gringotts, chained in a cavern. There's a dragon that guards the oldest vaults. It's half-blind from years in darkness, scarred and tortured by the goblins to make it fear humans. But it's also their only way out. Harry and Hermione fight their way deeper instead of trying to escape upward. The goblins think they're insane, running toward the dragon instead of away from it. They find the dragon in its cavern, a massive Ukrainian iron belly, covered in scars and chains. It roars when it senses them, breathing fire that scorches the stone walls. The goblins use clankers, noisemakers that the dragon has been conditioned to fear. But Harry and Hermione don't have clankers. They have something better. They have the ability to break chains. Hermione casts Bombarda on the chains binding the dragon's legs. The metal explodes, and suddenly the dragon is free for the first time in decades. The dragon, confused and enraged, begins to rampage. It smashes through the cavern walls, destroying support pillars, causing cave-ins. Harry and Hermione run alongside it, using the chaos as cover. The dragon instinctively heads upward, toward freedom, toward the sky it hasn't seen in years. It crashes through level after level of Gringotts, demolishing security stations, vault doors, goblin guard posts. It's absolute chaos. The dragon reaches the main hall of Gringotts and erupts through the floor in an explosion of marble and gold. Wizards and witches scatter, screaming. The dragon spreads its wings and roars, a sound of pure primal fury. Harry makes an insane decision. He runs toward the dragon and jumps, grabbing onto its leg. Hermione follows, understanding immediately what he's doing. They're going to ride the dragon out of Gringotts. The dragon takes flight, smashing through the ceiling of Gringotts. Stone and wood rain down. The dragon emerges into the London sky, a massive creature of scales and fire, with two humans clinging desperately to its legs. It flies erratically, unused to open air, unused to freedom. It soars over Diagon Alley, over London, people below pointing and screaming. This is going to be front-page news in every wizarding newspaper. The dragon flies for miles, gradually descending as its strength wanes. It's been imprisoned for so long that it doesn't have the stamina for extended flight. Finally, it crashes into a lake in the countryside, sending up a massive splash. Harry and Hermione are thrown clear, landing in the cold water. The dragon drinks deeply, then lumbers onto the shore and takes flight again, this time flying away toward the mountains. It's free. After years of captivity and torture, it's finally free. Harry and Hermione drag themselves onto the shore, soaking wet, burned, bruised, but alive. And more importantly, they have Hufflepuff's cup. Hermione pulls it from the enchanted bag she's been carrying, which miraculously stayed with her through the chaos. They've done it. They've successfully robbed Gringotts, but the cost was high. They killed a goblin, even if indirectly. They released a dragon into the world. They've made enemies of the entire goblin nation. And now every wizard in Britain will be looking for them. They find shelter in an abandoned cottage and take stock of their situation. They're wanted criminals now. Breaking into Gringotts is one of the most serious crimes in the wizarding world. The Ministry will be hunting them. The goblins will be hunting them. They can't go back to Hogwarts or any place they're known. They're fugitives, but they have the cup, and that's what matters. They need to destroy it as soon as possible. Harry pulls out the basilisk fang they retrieved from the Chamber of Secrets months ago. It's wrapped in protective cloth because even touching it could be deadly. The fang is one of the few substances that can destroy a Horcrux. Harry unwraps it carefully and hands it to Hermione. She hesitates. Destroying a Horcrux is not a simple act. The soul fragment inside will defend itself. It will show them visions, try to manipulate them, attack their deepest fears and insecurities. Hermione places the cup on the ground and raises the fang. Immediately the cup begins to whisper. It shows her visions of her greatest fears. She sees herself as an old woman, alone and forgotten, having achieved nothing. She sees Harry and Ron dead because she wasn't smart enough to save them. She sees the wizarding world enslaved by Voldemort because she failed. The visions are horrifying, personalized psychological torture. But Hermione is strong. She's faced her fears before. She screams a defiant no and brings the fang down hard into the cup. There's a sound like a human scream, high-pitched and agonized. Black smoke pours out of the cup, forming into the shape of Voldemort's face, distorted and hateful. The smoke lunges at Hermione, but it's just smoke. It can't hurt her. The Horcrux is destroyed. The cup crumbles to dust. 3 Horcruxes down. The ring, the diary, and now the cup. But they still need to find and destroy the diadem and Nagini. And they need to do it while being hunted by the Ministry, the Goblins, and the Death Eaters. Their mission has become exponentially more dangerous. They're completely on their own now, cut off from support, resources, and allies. Every wizard's hand is turned against them. Dumbledore, however, understands what they're doing. Through encrypted messages delivered by Fawkes, Dumbledore's Phoenix, he lets them know that he's covering for them as much as he can. He's told the Order that Harry and Hermione are on a secret mission that he personally authorized. He's told the Ministry that they're investigating Death Eater activity under his orders. It's not enough to stop the manhunt, but it buys them some time and keeps some people from joining the chase. They need to get to Hogwarts to retrieve the diadem, but Hogwarts is the last place they can show their faces now. The Ministry has placed Aurors at the school, watching for them. If they're caught on Hogwarts grounds, they'll be arrested immediately and thrown into Azkaban. They need a plan, and they need it fast. The longer they wait, the more danger Voldemort poses to everyone. Hermione devises an elaborate scheme. They'll wait until the next Hogsmeade weekend when the castle is less crowded. They'll infiltrate Hogwarts through the secret passages that Harry knows about from the Marauder's map, which doesn't exist in this timeline, but whose routes Harry remembers perfectly. They'll use invisibility cloaks, disillusionment charms, every stealth spell they know. They'll get in, retrieve the diadem, and get out before anyone knows they're there. The infiltration happens on a cold October night. Harry and Hermione apparate to Hogsmeade and immediately hide under their invisibility cloaks. They make their way to the secret passage behind the statue of the One-Eyed Witch, the same passage Harry used to sneak into Hogsmeade during his 3rd year in the original timeline. They whisper the password, Descendium, and the passage opens. They crawl through the narrow tunnel, emerging inside Hogwarts near the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Moving through Hogwarts as fugitives is surreal. This is their home, the place where they learned magic, where they grew up. But now it's hostile territory. They avoid the main corridors, sticking to secret passages and rarely use staircases. They pass portraits of sleeping witches and wizards, who fortunately don't wake to raise the alarm. They encounter Peeves the poltergeist, who nearly exposes them, but Harry manages to distract him with a promise of future chaos. They reach the 7th floor, where the Room of Requirement is located. Harry paces back and forth 3 times, thinking, I need the place where everything is hidden. The door appears and they slip inside. The Room of Requirement in its hidden form is vast beyond comprehension. Towering piles of objects stretch as far as the eye can see. Centuries of students have hidden things here. Broken wands, banned books, failed potions, forgotten treasures. It's an archaeological site of Hogwarts history. Finding one specific object in this chaos should be impossible. But Harry knows exactly where it is. He remembers from the original timeline. He leads Hermione through the winding paths between the piles, taking turns that seem random but are burned into his memory. They pass strange and wonderful objects. A cracked vanishing cabinet that will one day play a crucial role in the Battle of Hogwarts, in the timeline that no longer exists. How old they pass strange and wonderful objects. A cracked vanishing cabinet that will one day play a crucial role in the Battle of Hogwarts, in the timeline that no longer exists. An old tiara with a rusty crown. A troll leg umbrella stand. Mountains of books, some bound in scales, some that whisper in unknown languages. A blood-stained pack of playing cards. And there, on a stone bust of an old wizard perched like a crown, is Ravenclaw's diadem. The tiara is beautiful despite its age. Blue and silver, adorned with the words, "Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure." This is one of the legendary lost treasures of Hogwarts, missing for centuries, reduced to myth. And Voldemort found it, corrupted it, turned it into a vessel for his fractured soul. Harry approaches carefully, wand raised, expecting traps or curses. But there's nothing. Voldemort hid it so well that he didn't think anyone would ever find it. His arrogance was his weakness. Harry lifts the diadem from the bust. It's heavier than it looks and cold to the touch. Dark magic pulses through it like a heartbeat. He can feel the malevolence radiating from the object, the corrupted piece of Voldemort's soul trapped inside. He places it on the ground and Hermione unwraps the basilisk fang once again. They've done this twice now. They know what to expect, but it never gets easier. The diadem begins to defend itself the moment Hermione raises the fang. It projects visions, but these are different from the cup's visions. The diadem was created from an object that symbolizes wisdom and intelligence. It attacks Hermione's sense of self-worth in the most insidious way. It shows her that she's not as smart as she thinks, that all her studying, all her preparation has been meaningless, that she's just a muggle-born pretending to be special, and everyone knows it. The vision shows her Hogwarts professors laughing at her behind her back. It shows Harry and Ron only tolerating her because they pity her. It shows her future self as a failure, unable to make any real difference in the world. The psychological attack is vicious and targeted. For a moment, Hermione falters. The fang wavers in her hand. The doubts creep in. What if it's true? What if she's been deluding herself this whole time? But then Harry is there beside her, his hand on her shoulder. He tells her that she's the brightest witch of her age, that she's saved his life more times than he can count, that without her, none of this would be possible. His words break through the diadem's manipulation. Hermione focuses on what's real, her friendship with Harry, the lives they've saved, the mission they're completing together. She brings the fang down with all her strength. The diadem shatters with a sound like breaking glass mixed with a human scream. The soul fragment erupts from it in a column of black smoke that takes the shape of Ravenclaw's eagle before dissipating into nothing. 4 Horcruxes destroyed. Only Nagini remains, and possibly others they don't know about. But they're making progress. Voldemort is becoming more mortal with each destruction. They escape Hogwarts the same way they entered, through secret passages and under invisibility cloaks. But as they're leaving, they're spotted by Argus Filch, the caretaker. Filch doesn't see them clearly because of the disillusionment charms, but he sees something, a shimmer in the air, footsteps with no visible source. He raises the alarm. Suddenly, the castle is on lockdown. Professors are searching every corridor. Aurors are sealing the exits. Harry and Hermione are trapped inside Hogwarts with dozens of people hunting them. They can't apparate because of the anti-apparition wards. They can't use the flu network because it's being monitored. All the secret passages are being watched. They need a new plan, and they need it immediately. They hide in a broom cupboard while footsteps thunder past in the corridor outside. Harry's mind races, trying to think of a way out. Then Hermione has an idea. The Whomping Willow. There's a secret passage under the Whomping Willow that leads to the Shrieking Shack in Hogsmeade. It's how Remus Lupin gets to and from his werewolf transformations. If they can reach the Whomping Willow, freeze it long enough to access the passage, they can escape to Hogsmeade and apparate from there. It's risky because the Whomping Willow is in the open, visible from the castle, but it's their best shot. They make their way to the grounds, dodging patrols and hiding behind statues. The castle is in chaos. Students have been confined to their common rooms. Professors are conducting room-by-room searches. Dumbledore himself is coordinating the effort, though Harry suspects the headmaster knows exactly what they're doing and is deliberately making the search inefficient to give them time to escape. Still, they can't rely on Dumbledore's protection forever. They reach the Whomping Willow just as the sun is rising. The tree is thrashing violently, its branches whipping through the air hard enough to break bones. Harry knows the trick to freeze it. You have to press the knot at the base of the trunk, but getting close enough to do that without being smashed to pulp is the challenge. In the original timeline, Crookshanks pressed the knot. Now, they don't have a cat. They'll have to do it themselves. Hermione has a better idea. She levitates a long stick and uses it to press the knot from a distance. The Whomping Willow immediately freezes, becoming as still as a normal tree. They rush forward, find the entrance to the passage, and crawl inside. The tunnel is dark, narrow, and smells of earth and decay. They crawl as fast as they can, hearing shouts from behind them as someone spots them entering the passage. They emerge in the Shrieking Shack, which is dusty and abandoned as always. But before they can apparate, they're confronted by someone they didn't expect. Severus Snape, He's standing in the room, wand drawn, blocking their exit. His face is a mask of cold fury. He's been waiting for them. Somehow he figured out where they would go. For a tense moment, nobody moves. Harry and Hermione have their wands trained on Snape. Snape has his wand trained on them. One wrong move, and this becomes a duel. But then Snape does something unexpected. He lowers his wand. He tells them that Dumbledore sent him to help them escape. The Aurors are moments behind. But if Harry and Hermione leave now, Snape will delay the pursuit long enough for them to get away. He asks them only one thing in return. He asks them to promise they'll keep Lily Evans safe. Whatever their mission is, whatever they're trying to accomplish, Lily's safety has to be part of it. Harry looks at Snape and sees the desperate love in his eyes. In this timeline, Snape hasn't betrayed anyone yet. He's still fighting his darker impulses, still clinging to his feelings for Lily as an anchor to goodness. Harry promises. He tells Snape that keeping Lily safe is one of their primary objectives, that everything they're doing is to protect the people they love. It's not a lie. Snape nods, accepting the promise, and steps aside. Harry and Hermione disapparate just as Aurors burst into the shrieking shack. They reappear in a forest miles away, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. They've escaped. They have the diadem. 4 Horcruxes destroyed. But the situation is escalating. They're now the most wanted criminals in the wizarding world. Every witch and wizard is looking for them. They can't go anywhere public. They can't contact anyone. They're completely on their own. They spend weeks in hiding, moving from one abandoned location to another. Empty cottages, forests, caves. They're living like fugitives, always looking over their shoulders, never staying in one place for more than a day or two. The strain is immense. They're exhausted, hungry, and slowly losing hope. They listen to the wizarding wireless and hear themselves described as dangerous criminals, possibly under the Imperius curse, possibly working for you-know-who himself. The propaganda is working. Public opinion is turned against them, but they can't stop. They still need to find and destroy Nagini, and they need to locate Voldemort for a final confrontation. The snake is the problem. Nagini is always with Voldemort, protected by the Dark Lord himself. Killing her will be nearly impossible. They need a plan, an opportunity, something to give them an advantage, but what? They're 2 people against Voldemort's entire army. Then they get a message from Dumbledore, delivered by Fawkes. The Phoenix appears in a burst of flame, drops a small note, and disappears again. The note says simply, "The Potters are in danger." Voldemort knows about the prophecy. He will move against them soon. You must act now. The note includes a date and location, October 31st, 1981, Godric's Hollow. The night that changed everything in the original timeline is approaching in this one too. Harry and Hermione realize they're running out of time. They need to destroy Nagini before Voldemort attacks the Potters. They need to weaken him enough that they can defeat him when the confrontation comes. But how do they get close to Nagini? The snake is protected by layers of magic, kept in a magical cage when not actively with Voldemort, guarded by Death Eaters. It seems impossible. Hermione suggests a desperate plan. They'll stage an attack on a Death Eater gathering, create chaos, and use the confusion to get close to Nagini. It's suicidal, but they're out of options. They spend days preparing, brewing potions, casting protective charms on themselves, practicing battle spells. They know they probably won't survive this. They write letters to people they care about, just in case. Harry writes to his younger self, the baby who doesn't know him yet. Hermione writes to her parents in the original timeline, even though they'll never receive it. The Death Eater meeting is at Malfoy Manor. Harry and Hermione infiltrate using Polyjuice Potion one last time, disguised as lower-ranking Death Eaters. The manor is filled with Voldemort's followers, dozens of them, all gathered to hear the Dark Lord speak. Voldemort himself stands at the head of the room, Nagini coiled around his shoulders like a living scarf. The snake's eyes gleam with malevolent intelligence. She's not just a snake anymore. She's a Horcrux, imbued with a fragment of Voldemort's soul, and that makes her more dangerous than any natural creature. Voldemort speaks of his plans for the coming war. He will crush all resistance. He will purge the Muggleborns. He will establish a new world order with pure-blood wizards ruling over all. His voice is mesmerizing, hypnotic, filled with dark charisma. Harry can feel the appeal of it, the seductive promise of power and certainty. He understands for a moment why so many joined Voldemort. It's not just fear. It's the promise of belonging to something greater, of being special, of having purpose. But Harry shakes off the influence. He's here for one reason only: to destroy Nagini. He and Hermione exchange a glance. It's time. Hermione creates a distraction by casting a powerful explosive curse at the far end of the room. The blast throws Death Eaters across the room, creates smoke and chaos. In the confusion, Harry charges forward, the sword of Gryffindor suddenly in his hand. Summoned by his desperate courage and need, he swings the sword at Nagini. The blade slices through the air, aiming for the snake's body, but Voldemort is faster than Harry anticipated. The Dark Lord conjures a shield that deflects the blow. Nagini hisses and strikes at Harry, fangs aiming for his throat. Harry dodges, barely feeling the wind of her passage. The snake is huge, 12 feet long, with jaws that could swallow a man's head. One bite would mean death. Voldemort realizes who Harry is now. The polyjuice has worn off in the chaos, revealing Harry's true face. Voldemort's red eyes widen with surprise and then narrow with hatred. He recognizes Harry Potter, though it makes no sense. Harry Potter is an infant. This is a young man. But Voldemort senses something familiar about him, a connection he can't quite identify. He raises his wand to kill Harry where he stands. Hermione intervenes with a protego that barely holds against Voldemort's curse. The shield shatters, throwing her backward. Death Eaters are recovering from the explosion, surrounding them, cutting off escape routes. Harry and Hermione are trapped, facing Voldemort and dozens of his followers, with no way out. This is it. This is where they die. But they're not going down without a fight. Harry casts every offensive spell he knows, targeting Nagini, trying to get past Voldemort's defenses. Hermione fights off Death Eaters, stunning 3, disarming 2 more, using transfiguration to turn furniture into barriers. The battle is savage and desperate. Spells fly in every direction. The manor's walls crack and crumble. Fires break out. Death Eaters fall, but more keep coming. Then something unexpected happens. Severus Snape arrives at the manor, summoned by Voldemort to join the meeting. He sees the chaos, sees Harry and Hermione fighting for their lives, and makes a split-second decision. He attacks Voldemort from behind. The spell doesn't hit. Voldemort's reflexes are too good, but it creates an opening. In that moment of distraction, Harry lunges forward with the sword of Gryffindor and strikes Nagini. The blade cuts through the snake's body, severing her in 2. Nagini writhes and screams, a sound no natural snake could make. Black smoke pours from her body, the soul fragment escaping, dissipating into the air with a wail of rage and despair. 5 Horcruxes destroyed. Voldemort screams in fury and pain. He can feel the loss, the piece of his soul being torn away. He's vulnerable now in a way he hasn't been in decades, but the victory costs them. Voldemort, enraged beyond reason, casts Fiend Fire. Cursed fire erupts throughout the manor, spreading faster than any natural flame, consuming everything in its path. The fire takes the shape of serpents and dragons, living constructs of magical flame that hunt and destroy. Death Eaters flee in panic. The manor is becoming an inferno. Harry, Hermione, and Snape run for the exits, dodging walls of flame, barely staying ahead of the destruction. They escape Malfoy Manor just as the entire building collapses in flames. Dozens of Death Eaters die in the inferno, killed by their own master's rage. Voldemort escapes, disapparating before the fire consumes him, but he's wounded, diminished. His Horcruxes are nearly all destroyed. He's running out of anchors to mortality. And now one of his own, Severus Snape, has betrayed him. The Dark Lord's power is crumbling. Harry, Hermione, and Snape appear in a forest, coughing, burned but alive. Snape looks at them with an expression of grim determination. He tells them he's made his choice. He's done with Voldemort, done with the Death Eaters. Whatever they're trying to do, he wants to help. Not for any grand ideological reason, but because Lily Potter's life depends on stopping Voldemort, and that's all that matters to him. Harry accepts his help. They need all the allies they can get. The 3 of them become an unlikely team. Harry, the boy from the future who shouldn't exist. Hermione, the brilliant witch fighting a war across time. And Severus Snape, the conflicted former Death Eater seeking redemption through love. Together, they plan for the final confrontation. They know Voldemort will go after the Potters on Halloween. The prophecy has pointed him toward their infant son. They have to be ready to stop him. They set up protective wards around Godric's Hollow, additional layers beyond the Fidelius charm. They create emergency escape routes and hidden safe rooms. They prepare every defensive spell they know. Harry reaches out to Sirius and Remus through secret channels, brings them into the plan. The Order of the Phoenix mobilizes, ready to defend the Potters against Voldemort's assault. This time, when Voldemort comes for the Potters, He won't face just two loving parents trying to protect their baby. He'll face a coordinated defense force that knows he's coming. But despite all their preparations, tragedy still strikes. October 31st arrives with overcast skies and a cold wind. Halloween, the day that defined Harry's life in the original timeline. The day his parents died and he became the boy who lived. In this timeline, Harry is determined to change that outcome. He's stationed himself inside Godric's Hollow, invisible under a disillusionment charm, waiting for Voldemort to appear. The attack comes at nightfall. Voldemort doesn't sneak or hide. He arrives openly, striding up the path to the Potter's cottage with absolute confidence. His red eyes glow in the darkness. His pale, snake-like face is twisted with anticipation. He's here to kill a baby, to prevent a prophecy, to eliminate a threat before it can materialize. He blasts through the protective wards with raw power, disintegrating them one by one. The Fidelius charm holds, but the other defenses crumble before him. James Potter is waiting inside with his wand, ready to defend his family. When Voldemort enters, James attacks immediately, throwing every spell he knows at the Dark Lord. For a few precious seconds, James holds his own, his talent and desperation making him formidable. But he's facing the most powerful dark wizard in history. Voldemort barely seems to exert himself as he deflects James's spells and strikes back. A flash of green light. Avada Kedavra. James Potter falls dead in his own living room, his wand rolling from his hand. Harry, watching from his hidden position, screams. He's watching his father die, unable to prevent it despite everything. But he can't reveal himself yet. He has to wait for the right moment when Voldemort is vulnerable. Hermione and Snape are positioned outside, ready to intervene, but it's happening too fast. Voldemort is already ascending the stairs toward Lily and the baby. Lily Potter stands in front of her son's crib, wand raised, tears streaming down her face. She knows she can't defeat Voldemort, but she'll die trying to protect Harry. When Voldemort enters the nursery, he offers her a choice. Stand aside and live or die defending a child who is already doomed. It's a cruel offer, one he doesn't expect her to refuse. But Lily refuses without hesitation. She begs Voldemort to take her instead, to spare her son, to show mercy. Voldemort has no mercy. He raises his wand and casts the killing curse. Lily Potter falls and ancient magic activates. Her willing sacrifice, her pure love, creates a protection that settles over baby Harry like an invisible shield. In the original timeline, this was the moment when Voldemort's curse rebounded, when the Dark Lord was destroyed by his own spell. But in this timeline, things happen differently. Harry from the future bursts from his hiding place, throwing off the disillusionment charm. He charges at Voldemort with the sword of Gryffindor raised. Hermione and Snape crash through the windows, wands blazing. The three of them attack Voldemort simultaneously from different directions. The Dark Lord is caught off guard, distracted by the death of Lily Potter and the activation of her sacrifice magic. For a split second, he's vulnerable. But even vulnerable, Voldemort is terrifyingly powerful. He conjures a shield that holds against their combined assault, then retaliates with dark magic that tears through the room. The nursery walls explode outward. The ceiling collapses. Harry, Hermione, and Snape are thrown back by the force of Voldemort's counterattack. The Dark Lord advances, fury incarnate, ready to kill them all before finishing off the baby. Then baby Harry does something unexpected. The infant, protected by his mother's sacrifice, begins to glow with golden light. The ancient blood magic, the most powerful protection in existence, reacts to Voldemort's presence. When Voldemort raises his wand to cast the killing curse at the baby, the protection doesn't just shield. It strikes back. The green light of Avada Kedavra meets the golden light of sacrificial love, and the two magics collide in a blast that levels the house. Voldemort's body is destroyed. His spirit, weakened by the destruction of 5 Horcruxes, is torn from what remains. He becomes a wraith, a shadow, barely clinging to existence. Without Horcruxes to anchor him strongly, he can't maintain a physical form. He flees screaming in rage and agony, disappearing into the night. The most powerful dark wizard in history has been defeated not by force, but by love. The same lesson across 2 timelines. Love is the strongest magic. The cottage collapses around them. Harry from the future crawls from the rubble, bleeding, broken bones grinding, vision blurred. He searches frantically for the baby. He finds infant Harry still in his crib, which miraculously survived the blast. The baby is crying but unharmed, protected to the last by Lily's sacrifice. And there on his forehead is the lightning bolt scar. Some things are constant across all timelines. Some marks can't be erased. James and Lily Potter lie dead in the ruins. Harry gathers them, his mother and father, and sobs. He traveled back in time to save them, and he failed. They're still dead. His mother still sacrificed herself. His father still fell defending his family. The timeline changed in so many ways, but this moment, this tragedy, was inevitable. Some things, Harry realizes with crushing despair, are fixed points. Some events are so fundamental to the structure of reality that they can't be altered no matter how hard you try. Hermione and Snape emerge from the rubble, injured but alive. Snape's face is a mask of anguish as he looks at Lily's body. He kneels beside her, takes her hand, whispers something Harry can't hear. For Snape, this is the death of everything that mattered. The woman he loved is gone, and all his efforts to save her came to nothing. He's utterly broken. Sirius Black arrives moments later, alerted by the wards falling. He sees the destruction, sees his best friends dead, sees the baby crying in the ruins, and he collapses. His grief is raw and overwhelming. He clutches James's body and howls like an animal in pain. Remus Lupin arrives shortly after and tries to comfort Sirius, but there's no comfort to be found. The Marauders are broken forever. James is dead. Peter, though trustworthy in this timeline, still feels guilty for not being there. Remus is devastated. Sirius is shattered. The Ministry arrives. Aurors secure the scene. They find Harry and Hermione, exhausted and wounded, still holding their wands, surrounded by evidence of a massive battle. At first, the Aurors think they're responsible. But Dumbledore arrives and explains what really happened. Harry and Hermione fought Voldemort. They destroyed his Horcruxes, weakened him, and ultimately enabled his defeat. They're heroes, not criminals. The charges against them are dropped. The manhunt is called off, but the victory is hollow. The war is over, but the cost was everything. James and Lily Potter are dead. Dozens of others died in the war. The Longbottoms tortured by Bellatrix into insanity. The Prewett brothers killed by Death Eaters. So many families destroyed. Harry and Hermione sit in the ruins of Godric's Hollow and wonder if any of it was worth it. They changed the timeline, but they couldn't save the people who mattered most. Dumbledore finds them there as dawn breaks. He sits beside them in the rubble and says something profound. He tells them that they accomplished more than they realize. In the original timeline, the war lasted another decade after Voldemort's first defeat. The Death Eaters continued to cause chaos. Innocent people continued to die. But in this timeline, the war is truly over. Voldemort is defeated more thoroughly, his followers scattered or imprisoned, his ideology discredited. The peace will last. He also tells them that James and Lily's deaths were not in vain. Their sacrifice created a protection that will shield their son for years to come. Baby Harry will grow up safe, loved by Sirius and Remus, never abused or neglected. He'll have the childhood that Harry from the future never got. He'll be happy. And isn't that worth something? Isn't that what they came back to accomplish? Harry from the future looks at his younger self, the baby who will grow up without parents but with love, and he nods slowly. Yes, it was worth it. It's not the happy ending he wanted. It's not the fairy tale where everyone lives. But it's better than the original timeline. Fewer people died. The war ended sooner. Baby Harry will have a better life. That has to be enough. It has to be. The wizarding world celebrates. You know who is gone. The boy who lived has survived the killing curse. Harry Potter, the infant, is famous. But the older Harry Potter, the man from the future, fades into the background. He and Hermione become footnotes in history. Mysterious figures who helped defeat Voldemort, who fought in the shadows, whose full story is known only to a few. They don't mind. They never wanted fame. They just wanted to save people. Sirius Black takes custody of baby Harry as they planned. Remus Lupin helps raise him. The two Marauders, devastated by James's death, pour all their love and energy into protecting his son. Baby Harry grows up in a house filled with laughter and magic, with people who tell him stories about his parents, who make sure he knows he's loved. It's everything older Harry wished for as a child. Harry from the future and Hermione have to decide what to do with their lives now. They're in their 20s, trapped in the 1980s, unable to return to their own time. The device they used to travel back was one of a kind, and it was destroyed. They're permanent residents of this altered timeline. They need to build new lives, find new purposes, live in this world they created. Dumbledore offers them positions. Harry is Defense Against the Dark Arts professor at Hogwarts. Hermione in the Ministry, working on magical law reform. They accept, It's not the lives they imagined, but it's meaningful work. They can continue to make a difference, to shape this timeline for the better, to ensure that the peace they fought for endures. The years pass slowly at first, then faster. Harry teaches defense to students who whisper about the mysterious Professor Potter who shares a name with the famous boy who lived. He's a tough teacher, but fair, demanding excellence because he knows from bitter experience that dark magic is real and dangerous. His students don't know that he's fought Death Eaters, dueled Voldemort, lived through a war they'll only read about in history books. Hermione works at the Ministry, gradually rising through the ranks. She drafts legislation protecting Muggle-borns from discrimination. She reforms the laws regarding magical creatures, giving house elves rights they never had before. She creates educational programs to combat blood purity ideology. She makes the wizarding world a better place through policy and persistence. It's not glamorous work, but it's important. They stay close, Harry and Hermione, bound by shared experience that no one else can understand. They're the only two people in the world who remember the original timeline, who know what was lost and what was gained. They meet regularly, sharing tea and conversation, reminiscing about friends they left behind, wondering how Ron is doing in a timeline they can no longer reach. Baby Harry grows into a child, then a teenager. He's different from the Harry who traveled back in time. This Harry is confident, happy, well-adjusted. He knows his parents died heroically, and he's proud of them, but he's not defined by their deaths. He has Sirius's irreverent humor and Remus's thoughtful intelligence. He excels at Quidditch, gets into typical teenage mischief, dates girls, struggles with homework. He's normal in all the ways that matter. When young Harry turns 11 and receives his Hogwarts letter, it's a moment of strange symmetry. Harry from the future, now 31 years old and a Hogwarts professor, watches his younger self arrive at the castle. He's there at the sorting, watches the hat place young Harry in Gryffindor, sees him sit at the table where his parents once sat. It's surreal and emotional and beautiful. Young Harry makes friends quickly. Ron Weasley, whose life was barely affected by the timeline changes, becomes his best friend just like in the original timeline. Hermione Granger, the younger version, brilliant and bookish, joins their group. The Golden Trio reforms, different but somehow the same. Watching them together, older Harry and older Hermione feel a bittersweet ache. This is how it should have been. This is the friendship they had, reflected in a new generation. Young Harry's years at Hogwarts are relatively peaceful. There's no Philosopher's Stone to protect because Voldemort never tried to steal it. There's no Chamber of Secrets crisis because the Diary Horcrux was destroyed years ago. There's no Dementor attack because Sirius Black never went to Azkaban. The threats that defined older Harry's school years don't exist in this timeline. Young Harry gets to have a normal Hogwarts experience with normal teenage problems, and older Harry couldn't be happier about it. But in young Harry's third year, something unexpected happens. Professor Trelawney, the divination teacher known for making occasional genuine prophecies amid oceans of nonsense, goes into a trance during a class. Her voice changes, becomes distant and echoing. She speaks words that chill everyone who hears them. The Dark Lord lies in wait, in an object of greatest personal value, hidden where none would think to look. Only the one who lived twice can destroy him, and the path will be revealed when past meets present in the place of deepest magic. Older Harry hears about the prophecy and realizes it's about him. He's the one who lived twice, born in two different timelines, existing as both the adult from the future and the child growing up in the present. There must be one more Horcrux, one they didn't know about, one Voldemort created in this altered timeline. The Dark Lord isn't completely defeated. He's waiting, dormant, anchored to life by one last piece of his soul. The hunt begins again. Harry and Hermione research obsessively, trying to figure out what the Horcrux could be and where it's hidden. An object of greatest personal value to Voldemort, hidden where none would think to look. They've already destroyed the ring, the diary, the cup, the diadem, and Nagini. What's left? What could Voldemort have valued enough to desecrate with a piece of his soul? Dumbledore joins the search. Together, the three of them investigate every place Voldemort ever went, every object he ever possessed. They search the Gaunt Shack again, Wool's orphanage where Tom Riddle grew up, Little Hangleton, Albania where Voldemort hid for years. They find nothing. The Horcrux is hidden too well or disguised too cleverly. Months pass with no progress. Then older Hermione has an epiphany. The place of deepest magic, She thinks she knows what that means. The Chamber of Secrets, beneath Hogwarts, is one of the most magically significant locations in Britain. Ancient magic permeates every stone. What if Voldemort hid a Horcrux there, not in the chamber itself, but somewhere connected to it? Somewhere that would only be accessible to someone who could speak Parseltongue and had been to the chamber before? They return to the Chamber of Secrets, older Harry speaking Parseltongue to open the entrance, just like he did years ago in this timeline. They descend through the pipes, emerging in the vast underground chamber with its snake-carved columns and its basilisk skeleton. The dead basilisk lies where it fell, killed by older Harry in his earlier visit to retrieve the fang. They search the chamber methodically, examining every carving, every alcove, every hidden space. It's young Harry who finds it. He's insisted on coming along despite the danger, arguing that if the prophecy is about someone who lived twice, he should be involved. He's exploring the statue Ravenclaw's diadem is hidden in the Room of Requirement at Hogwarts, lost among countless objects hidden by students over centuries. Harry knows exactly where it is. He's seen it before, even held it. But getting to it means navigating through mountains of junk, and the room itself is unpredictable. They sneak into the room one night and Harry guides them to the bust where the diadem rests. He lifts it carefully, feeling the dark magic radiating from it. 4 Horcruxes destroyed. They're winning, but Voldemort knows now. He knows someone is hunting his Horcruxes, destroying his anchors to immortality. He becomes more vicious, more desperate. Attacks escalate. The Death Eaters target anyone associated with Dumbledore, anyone who might oppose them. The Order is losing members faster than they can recruit. Dorcas Meadows is killed. Edgar Bones and his family are murdered. Marlene McKinnon's entire family is destroyed. The war is approaching its darkest point. At Hogwarts, the Marauders are in their 7th year. James has finally matured enough that Lily agrees to go on a date with him. Harry watches from a distance as his parents fall in love. It's beautiful and painful. He knows what's coming. Even if they prevent some tragedies, can they prevent all of them? Will James and Lily still die? Will Harry still be born? The paradoxes make his head hurt. Hermione reminds him to focus on the mission. Save as many people as possible. Deal with the consequences later. Peter Pettigrew is different in this timeline. Harry's mentorship has given him confidence and purpose. He's not as powerful as James or Sirius, but he's brave in his own way. He joins the Order of the Phoenix immediately after graduation, eager to fight. Harry watches him and wonders. In the original timeline, Peter betrayed them all. But this Peter seems genuinely good. Has the timeline changed him fundamentally? Or is the cowardice and self-interest still lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the right circumstances to emerge? Severus Snape also graduates. He hasn't taken the dark mark, largely because of Hermione's influence and his enduring love for Lily. But he's bitter, angry at the world. Lily and James are together now, and it's killing him. He applies to be a professor at Hogwarts, but Dumbledore doesn't have an opening. Instead, Snape takes a position at an apothecary, brewing potions, trying to stay neutral in the war. But Voldemort is watching him, waiting for his anger to overcome his restraint. The prophecy happens differently. In the original timeline, Sybil Trelawney spoke a prophecy about a boy born at the end of July who would have the power to defeat the Dark Lord. That prophecy set everything in motion. But in this timeline, Harry and Hermione have already defeated 3 Horcruxes. Voldemort is weaker, more cautious. The prophecy is made, but it's different. The seer speaks of 2 from the future who will either save the world or destroy it, who carry knowledge that should not exist, who have already altered what was meant to be. Snape overhears part of this prophecy, just as he did in the original timeline. But instead of reporting it to Voldemort, he's conflicted. He knows Lily is pregnant. He knows that prophecies about children born in July could mean her child. He debates for weeks, torn between his dark interests and his love. Finally, he makes a choice. He goes to Dumbledore and tells him everything. He reveals that he was approached by Death Eaters, that he knows about the prophecy, that he wants to protect Lily at all costs. Dumbledore brings Snape into the Order. In this timeline, Snape becomes a double agent much earlier, with much clearer motivations. He's not just working for Dumbledore out of guilt over Lily's death, because she hasn't died. He's working proactively to prevent her death. It's a significant change. Snape begins feeding Voldemort false information while reporting genuine intelligence to the Order. He's risking everything, and Harry sees him in a new light. Maybe Snape was always capable of heroism. Maybe he just needed the right circumstances. James and Lily Potter have a son, born July 31st, 1980. They name him Harry. Harry Potter watches his infant self being born, and the paradox nearly breaks him. He exists. He's standing here, a 20-year-old from the future, watching his parents hold his newborn self. It should be impossible. Hermione theorizes that they've created a stable time loop, or perhaps a parallel timeline. Either way, Harry exists twice now, and it's deeply strange. Voldemort learns of the prophecy, though he doesn't have the full text. He knows that the Potter's child might be his downfall. He begins hunting them. In the original timeline, this led to James and Lily going into hiding with the Fidelius charm, with Peter as secret keeper, which led to their betrayal and deaths. But in this timeline, everything is different. Peter is trustworthy, or seems to be. Sirius is free. Snape is actively protecting them. The dynamics have shifted. Harry and Hermione argue about whether to reveal themselves to the Potters. If they explain who they are, where they're from, they could coordinate better, protect them more effectively. But it's also a massive risk. How do you tell someone, "Hello, I'm your son from the future, and by the way, you're supposed to die, but I'm trying to prevent that"? It seems like it would cause more problems than it solves. They decide to stay hidden, to protect James and Lily from the shadows. The Order makes the Potters their secret keepers, just as before. But this time they choose Sirius Black openly. No secret switch to Peter. Sirius is proud to be trusted with protecting his best friend's family. He takes the responsibility seriously. The Potters go into hiding at Godric's Hollow. Voldemort searches for them, but he can't find them. The Fidelius charm holds. Months pass. Baby Harry grows. The war rages on, but Voldemort is getting desperate. He's realized that his Horcruxes are being destroyed. He knows he's not immortal anymore. Only two remain that he's aware of. Nagini, who stays with him always, and one more hidden so deeply that no one should ever find it. He becomes more reckless, more violent. If he's going to fall, he'll take as much of the world with him as possible. Death Eater attacks increase in frequency and brutality. Then comes the night that changed everything in the original timeline. October 31st, 1981, Halloween. In the original timeline, Voldemort went to Godric's Hollow and killed James and Lily Potter. And when he tried to kill baby Harry, the curse rebounded and destroyed him. But in this timeline, things are different. Voldemort doesn't know where the Potters are. Sirius hasn't betrayed them. The night should pass peacefully, but it doesn't. Someone betrays the Potter's location to Voldemort. The Dark Lord appears at Godric's Hollow, blasts through the wards and enters the house. James fights him, duels him in the living room, trying to give Lily time to run with Harry. Hermione and Harry, who have been monitoring the area for months, sense the disturbance. They apparate immediately. They arrive just as Voldemort strikes James down. James Potter falls, and Harry from the future screams. Voldemort advances up the stairs toward Lily and the baby. Harry and Hermione attack him from behind, hit him with every curse they know. Voldemort is surprised, distracted. This is their chance. Hermione shields Lily and baby Harry while Harry duels Voldemort one-on-one. It's the fight he's been preparing for, the fight that will determine everything. Voldemort is incredibly powerful, but he's also weakened. 4 of his Horcruxes are destroyed. He's more mortal than he's been in decades. The duel is savage. The house explodes around them. Walls crumble. Fire rages. Harry uses every spell he learned, every technique. He summons the Sword of Gryffindor, proving his worth through his courage and sacrifice. The sword comes to him, and he wields it against Voldemort's magic. It's surreal, a physical weapon against spells, but the sword was forged with goblin magic. It channels his power, absorbs enchantments. Voldemort realizes he's in danger. He tries to flee, to disapparate, but Hermione has cast anti-apparition wards. He's trapped. He summons Nagini, his last Horcrux besides the hidden one, to defend him. The massive snake strikes at Harry, fangs dripping with venom. But Harry speaks Parseltongue, commands her to stop. Nagini, confused by a human speaking her language, hesitates. That hesitation is fatal. Harry brings the sword down and beheads her. 5 Horcruxes destroyed. Voldemort screams in rage and terror. He's nearly mortal now. 1 Horcrux remains somewhere. But he's vulnerable in a way he hasn't been for decades. He throws everything he has at Harry, fiend fire, killing curses, dark magic that corrupts the air itself. Harry deflects, dodges, counters. He's fighting for his parents, for everyone Voldemort has killed, for the future he's trying to save. And then, in a moment of desperation, Voldemort does something unexpected. He casts the killing curse at baby Harry. figuring if he kills the child from the prophecy, he wins. The green light streaks toward the crib. Lily throws herself in front of it, just as she did in the original timeline. The curse hits her. She falls. Her sacrifice activates ancient magic, blood protection, love magic. The protection doesn't transfer to baby Harry exactly as it did before, because the circumstances are different. But it does something. It creates a shield, a barrier of pure love. Harry from the future feels it. The magic of his mother's sacrifice, even in this altered timeline, connects to him. He's her son across time and reality. The protection empowers him. He advances on Voldemort, sword blazing with silver light. Voldemort, weakened and terrified, casts a final killing curse. Harry does something he never thought he'd do. He casts Avada Kedavra back. 2 killing curses meet in midair, green light colliding with green light. The connection forms like priori incantatem, but darker, more primal. Harry sees Voldemort's victims, all the people he's killed. He sees Tom Riddle as a child, unloved and cruel. He sees every choice that led to this moment, and then the connection breaks. One curse overpowers the other. Voldemort is hit by his own killing curse, reflected and amplified. His body falls, but he's not dead. He has 1 Horcrux left. His soul rips away from his destroyed body and flees, a wraith disappearing into the night. Silence falls over the ruined house. James Potter is dead. Lily Potter is dead. Baby Harry is alive, crying in his crib, miraculously unharmed. Harry from the future collapses, exhausted and grief-stricken. They saved the baby, but they couldn't save his parents. Hermione is sobbing, holding Lily's body. They failed. After everything, after changing the timeline, they still couldn't prevent this. Some events, it seems, are fixed points. Some tragedies are inevitable. Sirius arrives moments later, alerted by the wards falling. He finds his best friends dead and breaks down. Harry wants to comfort him, to reveal who he is, but he can't find the words. The Aurors arrive. The Order arrives. Dumbledore surveys the destruction with deep sadness. Voldemort is defeated, his body destroyed, but his spirit survived. He'll return someday unless they find and destroy his last Horcrux. But for now, the war is over. The wizarding world celebrates. You know who is gone. Harry Potter, the baby who lived, is famous. But the victory is hollow for those who know the cost. Harry and Hermione reveal the truth to Dumbledore, Sirius, and Remus. They explain who they really are, where they came from. They show their memories in a pensive. The revelation is staggering. Harry is James and Lily's son from the future, come back to save them, but unable to prevent their deaths. Sirius can barely comprehend it. The question becomes, what now? Voldemort is defeated but not dead. Baby Harry is an orphan, just as he was in the original timeline. The timeline has changed dramatically, but some core elements remain the same. Harry and Hermione are trapped in the past, unable to return to their own time. The device they used to travel back was destroyed in their fight with Voldemort. They're permanent residents of this timeline now. Sirius takes custody of baby Harry, since Peter's betrayal never happened and Sirius was never sent to Azkaban. This is a huge change. Harry will grow up with his godfather, loved and cared for, not abused by the Dursleys. Remus helps raise him too. Harry from the future watches his younger self grow up in a better environment than he had and feels bittersweet relief. At least this version of Harry will have a childhood. Harry and Hermione have to decide what to do with their lives. They're in their early 20s, living in the 1980s with no way home. Dumbledore offers them positions at Hogwarts. Harry becomes the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. It's ironic, given his age, but he's more qualified than almost anyone. He fought in a war, defeated dozens of Death Eaters, dueled Voldemort himself. Hermione takes a position in the Ministry, working to reform magical law and improve protections for magical creatures and Muggle-borns. Years pass. The wizarding world rebuilds. Death Eaters are tried and imprisoned. Some escape justice, but not as many as in the original timeline. Lucius Malfoy is imprisoned for his crimes. His young son, Draco, growing up with a very different legacy. Without his father's influence, Draco might become a better person. The timeline is becoming unrecognizable from the one Harry and Hermione left. They search for Voldemort's last Horcrux obsessively. Dumbledore helps, using all his knowledge and resources. They investigate every place Voldemort ever went, every artifact he might have used. Years of searching yield nothing. The Horcrux is hidden too well, or perhaps it doesn't exist in this timeline. They can't be sure. All they know is that Voldemort's wraith is out there, waiting, and someday he might return if they don't find it. Baby Harry grows into a child. He's different from the Harry who traveled back in time. He's confident, happy, raised by people who love him. He knows his parents died heroically, and he's proud of them. Sirius tells him stories about James and Lily, keeping their memory alive. Remus teaches him magic, prepares him for Hogwarts. The scar on his forehead, the lightning bolt mark, is there just like the original timeline. Some things are constant. When young Harry turns 11, he receives his Hogwarts letter. Sirius is excited, nervous. Harry from the future, now 31 years old and a professor, watches his younger self arrive at Hogwarts. It's surreal beyond description. He's going to teach his own younger self. The Sorting Hat places young Harry in Gryffindor, of course. He makes friends quickly. Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger's younger self, and others. The Golden Trio forms again, but in a very different context. Ron exists in this timeline because nothing changed his parents' relationship. Hermione Granger, the younger version, exists because her Muggle parents' lives weren't affected by the timeline changes. She's the same brilliant, bookish girl she always was. Older Hermione watches her younger self from the Ministry, occasionally visiting Hogwarts, and feels a strange dislocation. There are now 2 Hermiones in this timeline, and they're 40 years apart in age. Young Harry's first year is relatively peaceful. There's no Philosopher's Stone hidden at Hogwarts because Voldemort never manipulated Quirrell. There's no troll incident because Quirrell isn't possessed. The Chamber of Secrets doesn't open in his second year because there's no diary Horcrux to possess Ginny Weasley. The timeline is so different that most of the events Harry remembers don't happen. His younger self has an almost normal Hogwarts experience. But then, in young Harry's third year, something happens. Professor Trelawney, the divination teacher, makes another prophecy. She speaks in that eerie, distant voice, and she says, "The Dark Lord lies in wait, in an object of greatest personal value, in a place where the past and present merge. Only the one who lived twice can destroy him, and he shall rise again when the hour is darkest unless the final piece is found." Harry from the future hears about the prophecy and realizes it's about him. He's the one who lived twice, born in 2 different timelines. He has to find the last Horcrux. The prophecy gives him clues, an object of greatest personal value to Voldemort, in a place where past and present merge. He consults with Dumbledore and Hermione. What did Voldemort value most? Power, immortality, his heritage as Slytherin's heir. Where do past and present merge? A place with deep history, they realize the answer. The Horcrux is at Hogwarts. It's been here all along, somewhere in the castle where 1,000 years of history reside. But where? They search the Room of Requirement again, but it's not there. They check the Chamber of Secrets. Not there either. Then Harry remembers something from his 7th year in the original timeline. The come-and-go room, the Room of Requirement, had another form. When you walked past it 3 times thinking I need to hide something, it became a vast warehouse of hidden objects. But there's another secret room at Hogwarts, a place where Voldemort hid something during his time teaching, the office he used when he was Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, before Dumbledore rejected him. Harry goes there and searches. Behind a false wall, he finds a small alcove. Inside is a locket, not Slytherin's locket, but a different one. On it is engraved, "To Tom, my eternal student." It's from Dumbledore, a gift from decades ago, transformed into a Horcrux. Harry understands now. Voldemort's greatest personal value wasn't Slytherin's artifacts. It was his connection to Dumbledore, the only person who ever saw through him, who represented the life he could have had. Making a Horcrux from Dumbledore's gift was the ultimate corruption, the ultimate rejection of light. Harry brings the basilisk fang, now old and brittle, but still deadly. He stabs the locket. It screams, and Voldemort's final anchor to life is destroyed. Somewhere, far away, Voldemort's wraith feels it. The last Horcrux is gone. He's fully mortal now, a spirit without a body, unable to return. He rages, but there's nothing he can do. He's trapped in limbo, neither alive nor dead, unable to interact with the world. He'll float forever, powerless, his grand plans reduced to nothing. It's a fitting end. Not death, but eternal impotence. The threat is over. Voldemort can never return. The wizarding world is safe, truly safe, for the first time in decades. Harry and Hermione have done it. They've changed the timeline, prevented the worst atrocities, saved countless lives. But the cost was high. James and Lily still died. Others died who might have lived. And Harry and Hermione can never go home to their original timeline. They're permanent exiles, living in a world they created but don't quite belong to. Young Harry Potter grows up, becomes a teenager, excels at Quidditch just like his father. He's brave, kind, a natural leader, but he's not burdened by prophecy or trauma. He doesn't have to defeat Voldemort because his older self already did. He gets to be a kid, to have adventures that don't end in death and tragedy. He dates Ginny Weasley, just like the original timeline. Some things are meant to be. Older Harry watches and feels pride. This is what he fought for. A world where his younger self could be happy. Where his friends, or their younger counterparts, could live full lives. Ron becomes an Auror, just like the original timeline. Young Hermione excels academically, advocates for house elf rights, falls in love with Ron. The new Golden Trio mirrors the old one in so many ways. Older Hermione takes a high position in the Ministry, working alongside Kingsley Shacklebolt to reform magical society. She writes laws protecting Muggle-borns, regulating dangerous magic, improving magical creature rights. She makes the world better through policy and persistence. She never marries in this timeline. Her heart belongs to a future that no longer exists, to a Ron Weasley who is now 40 years younger and in love with someone else. Older Harry remains at Hogwarts, teaching defense against the dark arts. He's a beloved professor, tough but fair, able to teach practical defense because he's lived it. His students don't know his full story. They don't know he's the same Harry Potter they're learning alongside, just from a different timeline. Only a few people know the truth. Dumbledore, Sirius, Remus, older Hermione, and eventually young Harry when he's old enough to understand. On young Harry's 17th birthday, Sirius and older Harry tell him everything. They explain the time travel, the original timeline, the war that was prevented. Young Harry is stunned. He looks at his professor, his mentor, and realizes he's looking at himself. An older version who suffered through hell to give him a better life. The two Harrys talk for hours, comparing experiences, sharing memories. It's the strangest conversation either has ever had. Young Harry asks if older Harry has any regrets. Older Harry admits he does. He regrets that James and Lily still died. He regrets leaving Ron behind in the original timeline, wonders what happened to him after they disappeared. He regrets the lives lost in this timeline that might have been saved in another, but he doesn't regret the choice to come back. Even with all the pain and complications, they saved the world from decades of Voldemort's tyranny. That has to count for something. Hermione, older and younger versions, also eventually meet. Older Hermione orchestrates it carefully, meeting her younger self after she graduates from Hogwarts. They talk in a quiet cafe in Diagon Alley. Younger Hermione is brilliant and curious, asking a million questions about time travel, alternate timelines, magical theory. Older Hermione answers as honestly as she can. She tells her younger self to cherish Ron, to not take the people she loves for granted. Younger Hermione promises she will. The years continue to pass. Older Harry and Hermione age while the world they saved grows around them. They attend young Harry's wedding to Ginny. They see the next generation born. James Sirius Potter, Albus Severus Potter, Lily Luna Potter. They watch Ron and young Hermione have Rose and Hugo. The Weasley family expands. The wizarding world thrives. Peace lasts. But older Harry and Hermione are haunted by questions that will never be fully answered. In the original timeline, the one they left, what happened after they disappeared? Did Voldemort win without them? Did Ron find another way to destroy the Horcruxes? Is there a version of reality where their friends think they abandoned them? Or worse, where their friends died because Harry and Hermione weren't there to help? The multiverse implications are staggering and deeply unsettling. Dumbledore, before he eventually dies of old age many years later, tells them something important. He says that every choice creates branches in reality. When they traveled back, they didn't erase the original timeline. They created a new one. In the original timeline, there are versions of Harry and Hermione who never time traveled, who defeated Voldemort in the way that timeline required. Every version of events exists simultaneously in the quantum fabric of magic. They didn't destroy anything. They added to the tapestry of possibility. It's small comfort, but it's something. Older Harry and Hermione take solace in the idea that they didn't erase Ron or their original friends, that somewhere in the multiverse those people still exist, still had their adventures, still won their war. This timeline is just one branch among infinite possibilities. And in this branch, they made things better. That's all anyone can ask for. As older Harry approaches his 50s, still teaching at Hogwarts, still mentoring young witches and wizards, he reflects on the strange journey his life has taken. He was born in 1980, lived to 1998, then traveled back to 1971. He's lived through the same decades twice, from different perspectives. He's fought the same enemy across 2 timelines. He's seen his parents live and die. He's watched himself grow up from the outside. He thinks about Ron Weasley often. His best friend, his brother in all but blood, left behind in another timeline. He wonders if Ron hated him for leaving or if he understood. He hopes Ron had a good life, married Hermione, had children, grew old surrounded by family. But he'll never know. That's the price of time travel, the permanent uncertainty about the roads not taken. Older Hermione, now a highly respected figure in magical government, sometimes visits Hogwarts. She and older Harry sit in the astronomy tower where they once sat as teenagers, and they talk about everything that's happened. They're the only 2 people in the world who fully understand what they've been through. They're bonded by experience no one else can share. They never became romantic despite spending decades together. Their relationship is deeper than romance. They're temporal siblings, partners in an adventure across time itself. They talk about whether they'd do it all again, knowing what they know now. The answer is always yes. For all the pain and loss, for all the complications and paradoxes, they saved lives. They prevented a reign of terror. They gave Harry Potter, their younger self, a chance at happiness. They gave the wizarding world peace. The cost was high, but the alternative would have been higher. As the story draws toward its conclusion, we see older Harry teaching a class on advanced defensive magic. His students include the children of people he knew: Rose Granger Weasley, Albus Potter, Scorpius Malfoy, who exists in this timeline but without the dark shadow of his family's legacy. Harry teaches them the Patronus charm, and when it's his turn to demonstrate, he casts his stag Patronus. The silver light fills the room, beautiful and powerful. One of the students asks Professor Potter why his Patronus is the same as young Harry Potter's father. Older Harry smiles and says that some things run in families even across time. The students don't fully understand, but they're in awe of the magic anyway. After class, Albus Potter, Harry's younger self's middle son, stays behind. He's struggling with living up to his father's legacy, feeling inadequate. Older Harry talks to him, tells him that he doesn't have to be anyone but himself, that the pressure of legacy is a burden, but also a gift. He speaks from experience, having lived with the weight of prophecy and expectation across 2 lifetimes. The final scene brings everything full circle. It's September 1st, 20 years after young Harry's first year at Hogwarts. Older Harry, now in his 60s, stands on the platform at King's Cross Station. He watches the next generation board the Hogwarts Express. James Sirius Potter is starting his 2nd year. Albus Severus is starting his 1st, nervous and excited. Lily Luna will go in a couple of years. Young Harry and Ginny are there, sending their children off. Ron and young Hermione are there with Rose and Hugo. The platform is filled with families, with love and hope and normal magical life. Older Harry watches from a distance, invisible under a disillusionment charm. He sees himself, his younger self, now a father, happily married, alive in a world at peace. It's everything he fought for. Older Hermione appears beside him, also invisible. They watch together in silence. Then Hermione says something profound. She says, "We gave up our world to save theirs. Was it worth it?" Older Harry looks at his younger self laughing with Ron, at the children who exist because the war ended differently, at the peace and normalcy of the scene. He says, every single day, every sacrifice, every loss, it was all worth it. They turn away from the platform and walk into London, 2 time travelers who saved the world at the cost of their own place in it. They're ghosts in a timeline they created, strangers in a familiar world, but they're not unhappy. They have each other, they have purpose, and they have the knowledge that they made a difference. In a universe of infinite possibilities, they chose to create one where hope won, where love conquered death, where Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, the best of friends, changed everything. The final image is of the Hogwarts Express pulling away from the station, carrying the next generation to their adventures. The train disappears into the distance, and the 2 time travelers apparate away, leaving no trace they were ever there. Because that's their role now, to watch, to protect from the shadows, to ensure that the timeline they created stays on course. They're the guardians of a history they rewrote, the authors of a better story, and somewhere, in another branch of reality, in the original timeline they left behind, perhaps another version of Harry and Hermione are having their own adventures, fighting their own battles, making their own choices. The multiverse is vast and every possibility exists. But in this timeline, in this version of events, Harry Potter and Hermione Granger traveled back in time together, and they changed everything. They lost the lives they knew, but they gave countless others the chance to live. And in the end, that's the most powerful magic of all. The magic of sacrifice, of friendship, of hope across time itself. What if Harry and Hermione traveled back in time together? They would save the world but lose themselves in the process. They would prevent tragedies but create new complications. They would give their younger selves the childhood they never had, at the cost of their own present. They would be heroes that no one remembers, living in the margins of a history they rewrote. And they would do it all again without hesitation, because that's who they are. The boy who lived and the brightest witch of her age, rewriting destiny one choice at a time.